We're going to go through these other regions as well. I'm not going to go as in depth into this as I am into that region, since these are, only Final Four opponents for Iowa State. Duke's going to go there. TCU is an interesting one. The way they can play, they can beat Ohio State, and on the right night, they could beat Duke. I'm going to take them there. I'm going to take them to fall apart against Duke, though. This is unfortunate. Northern Iowa is like a fun story here, but St. John's is a horrible matchup for UNI. I think Zuby Ejiofor is going to have a really, really big game in that one. Kansas is going to win there. This is a weird game. South Florida could beat Louisville. I think Louisville is going to win there, but keep an eye out for that 6-11 game. I think South Florida could definitely be an upset there. Michigan State through there, UCLA through there, UConn through here. Here, this is where St. John's firepower just doesn't work because Zuby, Badunga can absolutely handle Zuby Ejiofor down in the post. Kansas has too much for them. Then St. John's doesn't have an answer for Darren Peterson. We'll go down here. Louisville's kind of a fun team, but Michigan State's just kind of better at everything. We'll take Michigan State there. This is going to be my upset here. I'm going to take UCLA here. I think UCLA is kind of a dangerous team. They can score the ball. They can defend a little bit. I'm not a believer in UConn because I'm not a believer in the Big East. I think that conference was bad this year. I think UConn really should have been a 3. Probably not a 4, but you could make an argument. I think a pretty good argument. They should have been a 3 seed just because their resume was just so lackluster. Give me the Bruins through there, but their run ends there with Michigan State moving on and Duke moving on here. And then I'm just not enough. I'm not 100% sold here on Michigan State, so I'm going to take Duke there. As much as it'd be cool to see the Fins up, take down Arizona, well, that ain't happening. Kind of an interesting game here. Utah State's probably a little underseeded. I'm going to take Utah State. The West Coast teams always get underseeded a little bit. I think Utah State's over Villanova here makes a lot of sense. Wisconsin High Point. This is going to be a fun game. High Point is I'm not necessarily taking High Point. I'm taking Wisconsin here, but this is a fun game. High Point can really score the ball. He had 90 points a game, and Wisconsin started a little rough, but they're one of the hottest teams in college basketball over the last month and a half. They can really shoot the ball. This game is probably going to go, I would guess, both teams into the 90s. They're both, Wisconsin's a very good free throw shooting team, almost 80%. This is going to be a fun game, but I think Wisconsin will pull that out. Another interesting one, if Arkansas wasn't like the second hottest team in college basketball, I would almost take Hawaii there. And I kind of jokingly took Hawaii on our Sunday bracket reaction on CF After Dark. But Arkansas is just too hot, and I just don't love this matchup for Hawaii. Because Hawaii basically want you to try to beat them through ISO ball, essentially, and that's basically exactly what Arkansas wants to do. So not a great matchup there. BYU is going through here. It doesn't matter. They've got AJ DeBonsa. Gonzaga through here. Miami having to play Missouri in St. Louis sucks. Miami's a better team, but playing in front of Missouri's home crowd is not great. Purdue through here. Purdue through there as well. I think BYU gets Gonzaga here. Gonzaga is a good team, but in the NCAA tournament, having the best player in college basketball can drag you a long ways. And I think this is I think AJ DeBonsa dragging BYU through the tournament will be very reminiscent of Jimmer Fredette dragging BYU through the tournament, where you just have that 1-star player that just can just keep them in games, just keep getting buckets. And I think I would guess we'll see a 40 burger from AJ DeBonsa in one of these two games, maybe against Gonzaga. So BYU through there. Up here, Arizona takes care of Utah State without too much issue. It's a shame that this game has to be in the second round because Wisconsin and Arkansas have been two of the best teams in college basketball for the last month and a half. But I think Wisconsin's shooting puts them through here. BYU and Purdue is a fascinating one here because I'm not big on Purdue. I think I was a little bit surprised that they were able to work their way back up to a 2 seed because they struggled there for a while. I mean, they worked their way up. They won the Big 12. They won the Big 10 tournament, beating Michigan and all that, which is great. But I don't know. Braden Smith is good, but if you have one guy that can, lock down Braden Smith, they fall apart pretty quick. Give me BYU here. I think AJ DeBonce keeps dragging the Cougs through into the Elite Eight. Now, Arizona, Wisconsin has a chance to be an electric game because Arizona's defense, where them being able to pack the paint and really, really protect the rim. Wisconsin kind of doesn't care about that. They want to shoot threes and they can make them. And Arizona basically dares you to be a jump shooting team, and Wisconsin kind of wants to be a jump shooting team. So I think Arizona will win here, but if Arizona is going to lose at any point before the Final Four, Arizona catching Wisconsin right here is probably I think that would be the best, or that would be the most likely spot that Arizona were to get upset, if they're going to get upset. If Wisconsin is making threes, they're a very scary team. That's absolutely right, Redbird. So I'm going to pick Arizona here, but do not be shocked. I know you're only picking Wisconsin 6% here. Do not be shocked if Wisconsin gets hot. They can hang with Arizona. So I'm taking Arizona there, but that's I'm if that matchup actually happens, I'm not feeling as confident about the Arizona pick here. However, we get to this matchup, Arizona BYU. I'm going to look up their regular season meetings because I believe Arizona kind of took care of BYU both times. Let's see. So on BYU, they beat BYU by 3 in Provo, and then they beat them by 7 at home. So it's been 2 close games. At this point, though, I think this is where BYU starts to run out of gas a little bit. And I think Arizona gets them for a third time here. So I think it's a good run by BYU, and AJ DeBonce clearly, I think in here, he puts up at least 140 burger, maybe 2, cements himself as the number 1 draft pick for the next NBA draft, but Arizona's just got too much. Let's go down here, Florida through here. I think Iowa's probably going to win this. Actually, Clemson's down a couple players there, and they're just kind of an okay team. And Clemson is one of the slowest teams in college basketball, but somehow Iowa is even slower. So Clemson's pace plays perfectly into what Iowa wants to do. So give me Iowa through to that. Vanderbilt McNeese is a fun matchup here. McNeese is a decent defensive team. They can score the ball a little bit. Good team, but usually mid majors, you need them to shoot better than that from 3. So I'm going to take Vanderbilt. Nebraska, tough matchup there. Troy's a fun 13 seed, but Nebraska is going to go through there. I think VCU is going to grab North Carolina here. I do not believe in North Carolina because I do not believe in the ACC. Look at that. Big discrepancy there in shooting threes, big discrepancy in shooting free throws. VCU gets hot, they're going through. Illinois Penn is fun. Illinois can really, really score. Penn is they won the Ivy League. They're an okay team. They shoot the 3 ball well. Not as great from the floor, but Illinois just got way too much firepower here. I think it'd be fun for Fran to go through here and make the Sweet 16 through VCU, but Illinois would have to go really cold and Penn would have to get hot. Down here, St. Mary's is going to take care of Texas A&M. I don't think A&M is anything notable particularly, so I'm not too super worried about it. Unfortunate for Idaho because I think they're kind of a fun story, but Houston's going through there. Illinois is going to go through there. I think Nebraska makes their first Sweet 16 ever. They're going to win their first tournament game ever, and then they're going to make their first Sweet 16 ever here. Florida vaporizes Iowa because Iowa has no answer whatsoever for anything that Florida's got going on in the post. That's a 20-point game. Florida takes care of Nebraska here. Nebraska could get hot. Nebraska could theoretically get hot here, but I just don't think they've got the firepower here yet. A&M, I don't think A&M should be in the tournament either. I'm totally on board there. Down here, Illinois, Houston, fun game. I think Houston goes through here. Illinois, like I said, Illinois can really score it, but Houston's defense is just nuts. And Illinois hasn't played any defense anywhere close to that all season. So we're going to take, actually, you know what? I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to see if I don't believe, I mean, because they've played Michigan, who has a good defense, but playing a good defense is different than playing Houston's defense, which with how physical they are. And, you know, the NCAA tournament does call things a little bit tighter. So it's not like, you know, Houston won't be able to get away with like just beating the shit out of people like they do when Iowa State plays them, and like where Iowa State and Houston is just a knife fight. They won't be able to get away with that. But it'll still be it'll still be a difficult defense for them to deal with. Meanwhile, Illinois just refuses to defend most of the time. They are, I believe, literally last in college basketball at forcing turnovers. 365th. I believe that's last place. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's last place. Yes, indeed, last place in the country in forcing turnovers on defense. They don't foul, but they just don't defend. They don't foul because they're first in the country in not putting people on the line. But that is because they do not bother. They don't do anything with contact. They take no risks. They don't do anything. So with Illinois not being able to turn anybody over, Houston's going to get plenty of extra chances because they're a good rebounding team. They're a good defending team. They can, Emmanuel Sharp can do things. Kings and Flemings. With Illinois refusing to foul, refusing to play physical, refusing to turn them over, Kingston Flemings is probably going to go for a 30 burger in this game. It's just not going to happen. However, Florida's post is just, I think it's just going to be too much here. Houston's a great team. There'll be another Elite Eight. I just don't think they can get through. So give me Florida, Duke, Iowa State, and Arizona here. This is tough. I have seen some people take Michigan State over Duke here. And Duke has what's worth noting here is that Duke does have some injury concerns. They've got a number of guys out. Caleb Foster, I believe, is like, I don't think he's out. I think he's like questionable for the tournament type of thing. Like maybe misses the first weekend, but maybe be back for the second weekend type thing. So we'll see how healthy he is. Michigan State could go through here. If Michigan State goes through here, Florida's going to win that. If Duke goes through here, Florida's going to win that. Iowa State, Arizona, the third matchup of the season. This is where it gets tricky, and I got to really work at not applying my Iowa State bias here. But played them really close in the tournament, and both teams played really well. Assuming there are no injuries up to this point, and obviously both teams are playing well enough to get to the Final Four. This is a potential to be just another edition of, the best game of the entire college basketball season. This time around, Iowa State's they've got a good game plan for Arizona. And I think that's another game that just kind of comes down to the last minute or two and just figuring out who's got the ball and when. But in college basketball, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. Give me the Cyclones. Now, this is where it gets real tricky, because as much as I want to say at this point, Iowa State's riding the vibes. If you're at this point where Iowa State's in the championship game, Milan Momcilovic is probably shooting it well. Josh Jefferson's playing well. Jamarian Bateman's probably chipping in. Killian Torrey is still being something on offense. Blake Buchanan's rebounding. Nate Heise is contributing all over the place. You're getting what you want from all these people to get to this spot. Florida's post game concerns me. However, it is not better than Arizona's post game. I mean, Florida's good, no doubt about it. But They're not a great 3-point shooting team. They don't shoot a ton of them. They don't want to be shooting tons of threes. Florida has, let me pull up their KenPom page here. Florida has exactly one guy shooting 40% on 169, Urban Klavzar. Otherwise, they have a 33% shooter in Thomas Huff, a 28% in Xavier Lee, and that's kind of it. They don't really have any relevant 3-point shooters outside of Urban Klavzar. They're not like an especially big team, but Alex Condon and Ruben Chinyelu are both very good players, but they don't. But like other than that, Florida isn't a massive. I guess Thomas Hall is 6'9". Their guards are not very big. They don't shoot it very well. If Iowa State plays Arizona and beats them in the Final Four, you're basically just playing another you're just playing another Arizona in the title game. And if you can beat Arizona, who has already played you twice this season, knows how your offense works, knows how your defense works, they've got the scout. Florida doesn't have the scout. I mean, they'll have some scout at this point because you've played a bunch of games and they've been watching them. But playing 2 games against Iowa State is a lot different than watching 2 games of film again of Iowa State. 2 completely different things as far as dealing with pressure and stuff like that. Fuck, I might just talk myself into saying some irresponsible shit here. If Iowa State beats Arizona in the Final Four, they're beating Florida. Yeah, I realize I'm riding some bias here, but there's an easy way to talk yourself into all of these. I will tell you that I've said this in our Slack chat this whole week. I think there are only 3 outcomes that happen to Iowa State. There's only three outcomes. And one of them will happen. You're either going to lose right here to Santa Clara. You're going to get to the second round. Santa Clara is going to get hot and take you down. If you get through here, you beat Virginia. You could lose right here to Michigan. You find out that their posts are just too much, and that's the end of Iowa State right there. If they get to the Final Four, I think if they are good enough to make it to the Final Four, they're going to win that Final Four game. And then whoever's on the backside of this bracket, I'm not scared of. In my opinion, there are 3 options. Iowa State's either losing here in the second round, they're losing here in the Elite 8, or they're going to cut down the nets in Indianapolis. In my opinion, those are the 3 things that Iowa State might have happen. I find losing in any other round, I think feels unlikely based on what would have to happen for them to get there. One, I mean, Tennessee State, shit would have to really go wrong for this to happen. If you're here, I like the matchup against either for Tennessee or Virginia. And you're playing well enough to get to the Sweet 16. So you're going to beat that team. Michigan's good. If you're playing anybody but Michigan here, you're feeling really good. But I don't think anybody before this is taking Michigan down. Michigan's got a pretty good path. But if you beat Michigan, you're going to the Final Four. You're probably playing Arizona. You're either playing Arizona or you're playing somebody that's not as good as Arizona. So, if somehow like Wisconsin wins this here and makes it to the Final Four and you have to play Wisconsin, then you're probably nervous because that's a lot of fucking shooters. But if this is Arizona here, if this is Arizona, Iowa State here, I'm taking Iowa State to win that third one. It's hard to beat a team 3 times. And Iowa State nearly got them last time. And that was with Taman Lipsey not playing particularly well until he hit that 1-3, but they didn't shoot for free throws well. They didn't get to the free throw line very much. Jermaine Bateman contributed basically nothing. Nate Heisey didn't contribute a lot. There was a lot of things that I would say could have done better in that game to beat Arizona. If they make it to the Final Four, they're winning that game. And if they make it to the title game, Florida is the worst matchup for Iowa State on the other side of that bracket. They're the worst matchup by far. But they're basically just the same team as Arizona, but worse at shooting the three. So that's it. They're either losing here, they're losing here, or they ain't losing. It's one of those three. So that's where I'm going to leave you guys off for this week. I hope everybody enjoyed the foray into the world of college basketball. It's an exciting time for Iowa State fans. Exciting time for us, just because this team is playing as well as we've seen an Iowa State team play in a long time. I believe Bart Torvik currently has them over the last 5 games as being the best team in college basketball over the last 5 games. So if Iowa State can make some jump shots and take care of the ball, they can go a long, long ways. So, well, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode of Iowa State Cyclones Live here on the Voice of College Football. If you're watching anywhere besides YouTube, if you're on Facebook or you're on Twitter, definitely check out the YouTube page. Subscribe if you enjoy it. And then we will see you guys all again next week, hopefully talking about Iowa State in the Sweet 16 and maybe a little bit of football. So everybody have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the tournament this weekend. See you later. Go Cyclones.